that that's, that's fine, and it should have male influence brands, but what about the female influence brands? What about,
Right.
and so that's really the origination of the product itself, is that there was nothing out there that marketed or catered towards that bold millennial woman. She may have tattoos or piercings, and she lives in New York City, and there was nothing out there that she could hold and take an Instagram with, right? That actually looked like what she wanted it to.
Right.
So I completely agree. And yeah, the wine space is definitely seeing some shakeups. Like there's all these brands out there that are just popping up, and I love to see it. And I just encourage consumers to try different things. And like, I always try to try new products, because I'm on the other end of it, and I want people to be able to explore my brand. And it is hard to differentiate yourself, but once people try it, it's like, oh, this is great, and I should continue to try new things, because I'm not just going to stick with my usual. But I completely agree with you, and I think that we're seeing a huge new wave of differentiation that's really exciting.
Right. I mean, you mentioned it earlier too. It's about the price point as well. I always preach the same thing, that people try new things, in life in general, but when it comes to drinks, try new things, try new products, because your favorite new drink is out there somewhere you haven't tried yet. So you try the new things, try new products, and if you don't like them, okay, cool. You realize you don't like them, but also make sure you're paying a price that you feel comfortable taking that rolling that dice with, because like you said, if it's over a certain amount, you might want to do your research on it, check other reviews, see what people think, and then try it. And if it's in a price point that you feel comfortable with, go ahead and try it. I mean, again, what's the worst thing that happens? You don't like it? Like, if that's the worst thing, that's not bad.
Exactly. And also, like, if you're going out, like, ask the store owners, like, not just the store owners, but like the store workers, like, they know about these brands. And so I encourage people to do that. And it's so fun. Like, if you're already paying, like, why not explore and like have the experience of finding something new. But the price is the number one thing that matters. And so, even my product is considered a premium product because it's organic and has 100% de agave tequila, but because of the category that I'm in, it doesn't make sense to have premium prices. It's like, I'm competing with like Cutwater, and they're on the shelf at $12.99 a 4-pack. So guess what? I'm going to be at $12.99 a 4-pack, and maybe I'll be at $11.99 a 4-pack just to ensure that maybe I beat them out in price, because that customer is going to want to know that they're going to get a good bang for their buck, right?
Right. And then also, who doesn't want to be the cool friend or cool family member that brought something new that everybody likes? So, be that person. Yeah.
Yes, and you can go, everything these days, like, has an Instagram. You can go on Instagram and be like, oh, This is owned by, a young female entrepreneur, and this is the story. And I love doing that. I'm a sucker for the stories of these entrepreneurs, but, I'm a little bit biased. But it's really fun, and there's so much out there to explore, and so I love it. It's a hobby of mine.
I'm obviously a little biased too, hence me talking to you right now, but I love the stories as well, because it just gives more to the product, and you not only do you feel better, but you feel like you're helping somebody else. Whether you meet them or talk to them ever is completely irrelevant. You get to help somebody that had this dream, went on the journey, took the leap to make this happen, and now it's in your hand, now it's in your mouth, and you are enjoying it and consuming it.
Right, exactly. And just thinking about, like I said earlier, the whole supply chain that has kind of touched this product, and Ours is originated from a female-run distillery in the Amatitan Valley. And so it's just unbelievable how many people it takes to create just a little small can. And I love reminding people of that and how important it is to recognize every person that has a part in it.
Exactly. Now, you've touched on being a woman-owned business multiple times. I know I've heard it from the beer brewery side. I've seen it and kind of heard it in the wine and the alcohol world as well. I want to touch on the bad side of being a female-owned business first because I want to end on the good part because there's obviously going to be far more good things, and I want to talk more about the good things about being a female-owned business. But I want to touch on what are some of the non-highlights, we'll say, or challenges that you kind of faced, not only starting your own business as a woman, but going through this entire process. Because, like you said, this has been a male-driven world forever, really. So, I mean, hell, some of the most popular tequilas are named after men. So, can you touch on some of the challenges that you kind of experienced going through this?
Yes. Thank you. And also thank you for giving me the platform to talk about it because it is definitely male dominated, just the entire spirits industry, but also the startup world is, it's really challenging to be a young woman. Specifically raising capital is really hard. This industry, it takes a lot of money to create a spirits product. And I've been trying to raise capital for my next, round of products and my next phase of the business. And it's crazy. It's a nightmare. And I know that, I think, and maybe this is just me, whatever, but I think a lot of it has to do with me being a young woman, and that's okay. Only less than 2% of women get VC funding, which is just nuts.
Wow.
And I think and like 0.4% of that women are women of color. I'm not myself a woman of color, but I know a lot of women of color in the space, and they're trying to also raise capital, and it's just a nightmare. But also, I think it's kind of specifically when I'm out in, so that's one thing is raising capital. Also when I'm out in the market selling door to door, I don't say that I'm the owner of the company. I don't say it. But I'm treated very differently than these men that are in their 40s or 50s that are selling. They get the time of day from the buyers. And then some instances I will say I'm not the owner and that I'm the owner of the company, and they're like, you're lying. Like, no, you're not. Like, I'm just not taken seriously. And that's the very vague response, is that I'm just not taken seriously. And that's okay. I mean, it's okay that I'm not taken seriously. I have to, again, prove myself over and over again. So, I think that as a woman, I have to prove myself much more, much harder, much more consistently, and for much longer than my male counterparts. I have to be able to prove myself, and, that's okay. I'm here for the long run, right? I'm not doing this just to make a buck. I'm doing this to make a statement and really prove myself in the industry. So that's a long-winded answer of saying, I just think that people in the industry should give a little bit more credit to us young women who are busting our asses, trying to make a name for ourselves.
Without a doubt, because so it's funny, they want a pretty woman to sell them something, whether it be for restaurants or liquor stores or whatever. But if you are the one owning the business and getting out there yourself, somehow they look at you different. Like, it just is a completely backward situation And also, why
Right.
does it matter at the end of the day what sex they are? If it's a good product, it's a good product. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it shouldn't matter what sex you are to begin with. So we need to just get that kind of skew out of our brain in general. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah,
Right. I had one. I had one instance where I was at this table with a couple buyers. It was a group of men, and I was the only woman in the room, which is fine. Like that's very normal for me. And in this space, it was like 8 men and me. And one of the guys was like, "Oh, you look like that Instagram person." And I was like, "Oh God, please don't pull up this," because I had no idea who he was referring to.
Right.
And it was this like woman in bikinis, and all of her pictures was this woman in bikinis. I mean, how? And then he took the phone around and showed it around to all the buyers.
Wow.
Can you believe that? And I was so uncomfortable, and I was like, "Are you?" But I kind of like clapped back because I was like, "Are you seriously showing this right now?" But then I didn't want to offend them because I wanted them to buy my product. And so it was so uncomfortable. And then they're like, "Oh, let's get your contact information." And I was like, "No, you can go through like my broker," because I didn't want to be in a position where, it was just the most uncomfortable situation ever. So that's the kind of instance where I'm not taken seriously. And I don't know, it was crazy, but I shake it off and it's a good story to tell.
True. Yeah. And it's funny because we'll look back and obviously that guy's the villain in the story. But
Right.
if you went back 30, 40 years, you're the bad guy because you are, a female CEO that,
Right.
you are, like you said, clapping back at him about it when he was just like, "Oh, I just thought she looked like this person." It's like, well, okay, you might think that, but doesn't mean you got to show the whole room this one girl that's in a bikini in every single picture. Like, I wish I could say
funny.
yeah. I wish I could say I've never been in a room like that when it comes to the alcohol world, but I for sure have been in many rooms like that.
Right. And
yeah.
Luckily, we're in 2023, almost 2024 actually now. And I cannot luckily we've made a lot of progress in that respect. And so I cannot imagine, what women, decades ago had to deal with. And, I do hear stories. And so I'm grateful to be in a position where I'm able to talk about it and people respond appropriately and saying, "That's so crazy," and "That's not fair." And, but it does give me thick skin. And so I'm able to learn and kind of respond in future situations, better.
There you go. And it's as much as this industry is about, chasing that yes, and of course you want that product, you're also picking up the thick skin of the rejection that does come with, "Oh, we don't have enough shelf space. Oh, we don't really carry those kind of products here." List any excuse I imagine you've heard by now. But, again, it's adding to that layer of the thick skin and so that you can go forward and it could just either you can pivot from, okay, well, maybe not right now, but we can come back later and we can talk and, that kind of thing, or however you do it, because you're going to get a lot of no's before you get yeses, and you have to be okay with that as well.
Absolutely. That I've gotten thousands and thousands of no's in all respects. And so I completely agree with you. And it again gives you perspective on the yeses that you're grateful for, right? So that's what I say. Even if I get a yes in 1 week, that's great. And I get a 1,000 no's, I got one yes. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now we've talked about some of the challenges you faced. What have been some of the highlights for you personally of being not only a woman CEO, but a woman CEO in the alcohol world that has been so male driven for decades, if not centuries?
There's been so many rewarding aspects of what I'm doing. And